I'm gonna make this opening quick. This is an informative video made with the goal of letting the indie animation community at large know of all that's gone on in the past week or so, as well as trying to encourage people to talk on a platform that is not being upheld by an algorithm that quite literally promotes and rewards hatred and fighting in a community that rejects that. I do not want to make a habit of making videos like this, as I never want to be a channel that leverages conflict for a quick buck, so for those of you anticipating my next standard video, don't worry. It's being actively worked on right now by my editor Sabera. This is not a trend. That, alongside the fact that it'd be incredibly distasteful, is why my cartoon Sona is not present here. I put this one together myself. Anyways, there has been a massive uproar, an incredibly deplorable speech, and bad faith actors in the digital circus community as of late. The situation has snowballed, and more people are getting hurt at all angles, many of whom do not deserve it at all. But before we get to where we are now, allow me to inform you of where this all began. For transparency's sake, I should also inform you that I am a black content creator. This should not be news to any of you that have followed me before, but I figured I should get that in there as well before I'm put in the hot seat for even speaking on this issue. The voices of Zubul and Jax in the amazing digital circus, who will hereby be referred to by their first names, Ashley and Michael, recently came under fire when a clip resurfaced from some years ago of them making a joke that, by their own admission, was racially insensitive. They read aloud somebody's username that included nega, N-E-G-A, and proceeded to laugh about how it sounded like a slur. Gooseworks was also in the chat, egging it on. Michael and Ashley soon responded, and, as mentioned, they admitted it was insensitive, that it was leveraging racism for a quick laugh, and that it was immature and not okay. They said racism is not okay, and that their communities are not a safe space for bigotry. First and foremost, let's put this into perspective, okay? If this were a transphobic joke, or a joke against, say, paraplegics, of course, the issues we face are not the same, but I ask you, would this be my apology to accept in that situation? No, that's common sense. Secondly, is every single fan obligated to forgive these people that were clearly old enough to know better? Also no. And I say that as somebody who is, personally, willing to believe that their sense of humor has matured after reading their response and is now open to supporting their career and future, assuming they continue to prove that this maturity has occurred. But not everybody will agree with me. Not everybody will believe the response is sincere, and that is natural. Inevitable even. Please think about that analogy I gave you. The bottom line is that the opinions of black people on this matter should not be spoken over or dismissed, because the situation itself was against us specifically. In those other scenarios I gave you, the same would apply that way. I feel like there are a lot of fans out there, especially on Twitter, that feel like they have to have a hot take or needlessly virtue signal by either A, virtuously white knighting and fighting for their favorite digital circus voice actor, or B, viciously attacking them or anybody, non-black and black, who chooses to continue to support them. Saying this out loud feels like I'm explaining 1 + 1 = 2, but that is where we are in the digital circus fan base right now. This is how things have worked since the dawn of civilization. When someone does something they were not supposed to do, especially towards a group of people, the people from that group will individually decide whether or not they want to continue supporting that someone, and inevitably they will lose some support, sometimes a lot of support. In this case, as far as I can tell, they are not people who are promoting, encouraging, or engaging with harmful content, so it is similarly valid to continue to follow them. But again, as a black, cis guy who is willing to move past this, it is more than valid for some people to not feel comfortable to support them. That take is as valid as mine. Personally, it would be incredibly different for me if they were using slurs outright, or supporting supremacist ideology, or hell, even making jokes that I feel would cross a line for me. Even if that were 10 years ago, these people are in their 30s, man, and I would have permanently withdrawn from this. But with this situation that, like any other, should be judged as it is, I am making the choice for myself to believe that Michael and Ashley have grown, and will be watching to see whether or not that is proven by their future behavior. However you choose to feel about it is your own decision, but I especially do not agree with the opinions of the affected being minimized or told that it's not that serious, because to a lot of us, it is. And by trying to claim that black people don't have the right to be upset, you are initiating what is a very slippery slope, and attracting not so favorable people to capitalize on that shared belief. We'll talk more about the consequences of this later. Want to know something gross too? I've even seen people using screenshots of black people saying it's not that deep and saying, well, look what this black person thinks, as if we're all meant to be some sort of hive mind. That's weird behavior. I'm willing to move past the situation. That doesn't mean my thoughts override the feelings of other black people. In addition, the voice of Kane, Alex Roshan, at first made a pretty minimizing post himself before he retracted it, and he gave the mature response. He's trying to improve and is not owed forgiveness. To me, that shows character, and if it doesn't for you, I respect it, as should anybody else. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, Gooseworks, the show's creator. Until literally the moment I'm recording this, and we will talk about that soon, she chose to stay silent about the whole thing. Instead, she thought it was more appropriate to make jokes about Overwatch cum or something. This is an example of how not to respond when a massive racial issue is going down in your community, and thousands of people are being harassed, called slurs, and sometimes even doxxed. They take your silence and trolling as encouragement, and wouldn't you know it, her replies have attracted mass amounts of grifters and right-wing commentators that are now straight up LARPing as indie animation fans for the sole purpose of spreading more harmful rhetoric and hate speech. See, I do not believe in any way that Goose is some kind of white supremacist. Of course not. That'd be a massive reach on my end, but it is incredibly telling that she is so quick to comment on frivolous nonsense like shipping discourse, but when real harm is being done in the community, this is the response she gives. And this all comes to a head at Level Up Expo, in which another racist grifter squatted down in front of a Jax cutout and straight up calls out a slur. The most heartbreaking part of this video is that you can see black children walking by in the background that have nothing to do with this. This is the consequence of people en masse claiming that black people have no right to be upset. This is the consequence when you fail to condemn bad faith actors. Now, not only do these people feel they are welcome, but now there are black fans and even kids who are slowly but surely starting to feel as though this is not a safe space at all. And believe me, if these people continue to flock here, other people of color will start to make that realization as well over time. Is this the kind of community we should strive to foster? I'd hope you all agree that the answer is no. This community should be safe for all of us. I feel as though the voice cast is making an effort to steer things that way, despite having inevitably lost some people's trust. I should also say that I was very pleased with Glitch's response to this. Because this was very recent, I'll just read out the tweet to you right now. We were made aware of horrific and hateful behavior from a specific individual around our Glitch booth today, and we have contacted Level Up staff to take action and have them removed and permanently banned. We have also told our staff not to serve him, others featured in that video, or anyone seen exhibiting any behavior that would make members of our community feel unsafe or unwanted. These idiots are not representative of our community and fans, and we want to make any Glitch event as safe as possible for all. We condemn absolutely any hateful, discriminatory, or dumb fuckwit behavior. Be kind to each other, and if you can't, then piss off. We don't want you here. I appreciated this. They're not calling it a nothing burger. They're not downplaying what was going on. They're acknowledging it for what it is and taking action. This is how you work towards ensuring a safe environment for everybody. And so I hope the community at large will follow by this example. Now, I wish I could say it ended there, but it doesn't. Some of Gooseworks' old tweets have resurfaced, and for the sake of remaining informative, I'm just gonna show them to you. There are some dumb jokes about Hitler or whatever. These I don't think show any issue with her character. There are a number of incest jokes that people found, and while I personally would not get around these jokes with a 10-foot pole, I mean, I'm an older brother, I also don't think these are necessarily implying that this is something she's into, or at least I'd hope not. I don't know, I'm reading these as sarcastic. The part where it starts to enter territory that I can't really give her the benefit of the doubt on, at least not instantly. In 2022, she held a poll in which she asked if people make horrible, edgy jokes that you would never think of making in public or around anyone who wouldn't know you're joking. Then when somebody asked if this extended to racism, she gave a very vague response. Granted, she followed up with saying, "I never said I make racist jokes, but do what you want." But that's not what she led with, and so to me, that's concerning. Like I mentioned earlier, she did end up making a tweet today addressing it, disavowing the racists that are claiming to be for her. And while I'm glad that she did respond, it really shouldn't have come after all kinds of troll messages and dumb jokes, which I'm hoping she realizes now. And not to make any accusations, but I would like to just point out the phrasing of genuine racist, hateful things, which kind of ties into those tweets about making horrible, edgy jokes behind closed doors. I don't know. I think a formal response would still be incredibly beneficial for everybody. Now, the thing that's really concerning to me, even more so than that, is when after Shadman was arrested, she referenced how she wanted to make a tweet talking about filling the shoes that Shadman left empty. How many of you are familiar with Shadman? He was an explicit artist of Newgrounds origin, mind you, who became infamous, and I really do mean infamous, for creating absolutely heinous illustrations of young, real-world children as young as 7 years old. So I'm not even going to begin to consider what this joke could possibly imply. Or why in the world a woman of her age would possibly think that's an appropriate thing to say, even in jest. To me, that's like vomit-inducing. Again, I don't believe Goose is a white supremacist, and I really would hope that she's not anything else either from the Shadman comment, but it's very clear that her sense of humor is incredibly immature, especially for someone in her early 30s, and truly the best thing that she can do is come forward and say something. There are some other tweets as well that she made that I won't even begin to get into because if I did, then we'd be here all day, and you kind of get the point from these ones. A lot of it is in the same vein, so come to your own conclusions. Personally, I will be watching this situation very closely to see how things evolve. Now, believe me, I see the irony in me, a known Smiling Friends fan, taking issue with some of the Goosework stuff. Believe me, I am aware of Zach Hadel's history and Oni Plays and everybody in that entire circle. But at the end of the day, Smiling Friends is owned by Warner Brothers. Multi-billion-dollar corporate animation undeniably invites and platforms a lot of people that are much worse than them. And with indie animation, we have the opportunity to cultivate an environment that we can hold to a much higher standard. And so to me, it's silly to make that comparison. It's like apples to oranges, you know? Before we end off, there's a question I bet you're all wondering, and that is, where does this leave us? What do we do? Well, now I think is as good a time as any to ask, how important is it to you that this community is a safe space for everybody, regardless of the way they were born? And really do take a moment to think about that. This community has the potential to be a warm and welcoming environment for anybody, including people of color. But we cannot accomplish that by talking over one another, by minimizing situations that the voice actors themselves have acknowledged are harmful, that Glitch themselves have acknowledged is harmful. When things like this come up, it is not your duty to prove to everybody that you're a good person. Okay? Because I really do think that's where a lot of this comes from. But if you want this to be a safe space for people, then you gotta hear everybody out, not just the people that agree with you. And you especially should not talk over or demean the opinions of the people who are affected by a situation. Going forward, I hope more of us can adopt this way of thinking, because then maybe something like what happened at Level Up Expo will not be repeated again.